I was born in the city of Derry in Northern Ireland into a Catholic family, and our faith was constant and an integral part of who we were. I'm named Roma after my two grannies. One was Rose Downey and the other was Mary O'Reilly. But when my parents took me down to get me christened, apparently the priest stared at them in confusion. And he said, Roma? You know, because back then you had to be named after a saint, remember? Where did you get the name Roma? And so my mother said, well, we took the R-O from the Rose and the M-A from the Mary, and we want to call her Roma. And he said, well, I will christen her Rosemary, and you can call her whatever you like. And so, suffice to say, I've never been called Rosemary. I've only ever been called Roma. But I attended parochial schools from the time that I was 5 until I was 18, and I was educated by the Sisters of Mercy. Although, of course, in those days, we jokingly used to call them the Sisters of No Mercy. And this was back in the 1970s, and it was during the time in our history known as the Troubles. Our country was split in two due to religious beliefs and alliances. And you maybe remember that Catholics were on one side of that debate and Protestants were on the other. And it was a time when we were fearful and suspicious of our neighbours, and it weighed heavily on all of us. It was a time of disruption and injustice and violence and fear. And thank God that has all changed. It's been so heartening to now be able to return to Ireland, as I try to do every year, and to see the healing that has taken place in our province. There's now a walking bridge across the River Foyle that once divided the people of my city, and it's aptly called the Bridge of Peace. And the priests in our community were called on to do so much in those days. I mean, not just to say Mass or to pastor to our schools and on Sundays to be counsellors, but they had to be social workers and peace brokers, and to help comfort the sick and to bury the dead and try to be the bridge builders. My father, Paddy, attended Mass and communion every day, and faith was incredibly important to our family. And I remember as a little girl kneeling next to him on the linoleum each night to say the rosary. And I loved the prayers and the feel of the rosary beads in my little fingers. Although I remember the lino was a bit sore on my knees. And I soon came to be even more reliant on my faith when I lost my beloved mother. She died the week before my 11th birthday. My father turned to prayer to get us through those painful days of loss. And he reminded us of the hope that we had through Jesus, that we would see our mother again. And I have clung to that hope my entire life. In many ways, after I lost my mother, I felt even closer to the Blessed Mother, because I needed that source of nurturing and loving that I could no longer receive from my own mother. And I felt a kinship with Our Lady. And I knew that she had also experienced heartbreaking loss. And a few years ago, I had the great honor of playing the Blessed Mother in the role of the Bible series that my husband and I produced together. And at that time, we had many people tell us that we were foolish to try to bring the Bible series to television, that it was too risky, it was too dangerous, they warned us we'd get it wrong, that nobody would like it, that we would lose our shirts, that nobody would watch. And yet when the Bible series had finished playing its run on the History Channel, it turned out that over 100 million Americans had tuned in to see the Bible on television. One night we played opposite a popular show on TV called The Walking Dead. I'm not kidding. And the Bible won the ratings. And there was one news outlet that ran with a really funny headline, and that was, God beats zombies. In Canada, the series went up against hockey. And much to the surprise of the Canadians, the Bible won. Yeah. It was a God thing. It was all God. And as my dear friend, Untouched by an Angel, my former co-star, the amazing Delores, always said, it's a God thing, baby. And indeed, it felt like a God thing for sure. It was a blessing for us as well. Because being able to produce the Bible series as a husband and wife was an extraordinary experience and a great blessing in our marriage. Now, I have girlfriends that say to me, Roma, I can't even work in the yard with my husband. How do you do it? And we often joke that that was the real miracle, but I'm only kidding. My husband's a wonderfully fun, he's super talented, and he's really kind, and he's so cute. And he's a real keeper. But as well as producing the show and being able as an actress to take on the role of the Blessed Mother, which truly touched my heart, the series brought the story of the gospel to millions of people. And many of them had never heard it, but they were hearing it for the first time on a TV show. Playing the role of the Blessed Mother also made me consider her experience in a way I never had before. And since I was a child in Catholic school or at Mass, I had so often reflected on the sacrifice that Jesus had made for us on the cross, and I was always filled with gratitude. But as I stepped into the role of playing his Blessed Mother, I suddenly had to consider the scene through the eyes of a mother and to feel this scene with a mother's heart. And I can only imagine the pain and the agony of watching your own son being murdered. The Blessed Mother is and always has been such an example of faith and strength and courage. And I really have been very fortunate in my career. And I thank God for the kind of roles that I've been able to play. My first starring TV role has a connection to this city because I played Jackie Kennedy Onassis, another strong woman of faith. And then, of course, for almost 10 years, many of you invited me into your home every week when I played the role of the angel Monica on Touched by an Angel. And thank you. Thank you. I loved that. It was the greatest 10 years. And we would join hands as a cast and crew, and we would pray, and there was a scene, for those of you that might remember, we called it the angel revelation scene. I was letting on to be an angel in disguise. I was a doctor, I was a taxi driver, whatever the different disguises I would show up in. And then there was a moment I would reveal that I was an angel. And before that scene, we would join hands, we would pray. And my prayer always was, less of me, more of you. So Father, when you shared tonight that this was the beginning of your faith journey, and that you watched the show with your mum on the couch, that was because we had prayed the Holy Spirit in, that the Holy Spirit would come through the words in the show and would go out through the camera and would touch your heart. And that's just how amazing our God is, that we can use film and TV in this way. But I've so enjoyed being able to play women of compassion and empathy, women who trust in God. In my career as a producer, I've had the privilege to be able